okay. Um, I just want to like before when I had my computer and I could get to it, even the crappy one, I would almost always, and that might be why my streams are looking better, but I would always have like a couple Twitch pages open for some of the people I follow. And I'm not anywhere near my computer and trying to do this on this tablet. I don't follow anybody. They're usually not on. The other day, Schrodo Baggins. I got to give out a shout out to him. He was actually on, but I was streaming, and then when I get done, I usually have to work on my foot and ice it up and that. Um, I'm not back to 100%. It's definitely getting better. Definitely getting better. Um, but I do kind of feel bad because I used to be able to, while I played, I can occasionally, look over and see how everybody was doing and that and shout out or, say something to them. And I just do not have the ability to do that right now. But it's probably when my streams are turning out better because I don't have like two or three web pages open. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I got to get around to fixing that, make it look like the other side. But that's still looking a lot better. And first thing I want to do is it's the current call to action I got going on. I got two of them now. Please write everybody that you know in office and ask them to legalize assisted suicide. Uh, we just had a mass shooting the other day. I think we had one the day before. If we can sit around and stand around holding our fucking dicks while people are continually mass murdered because the fucking terrorist cult that makes up about half of our government and some of law enforcement and some of the military are in this cult where they have this fantasy where everybody has to have a gun and you can take out mortgages on your tattoos and all the other bullshit that's going on. We can actually do something to help people that are sick. I personally watched my mom. I was taking care of her. Uh, Other people in the family came out and helped out so I could get some sleep. Or when she got real bad, and you just couldn't leave her alone, they would come out when I needed to do like yard work or stuff like that. Go out and do the riding lawnmower bullshit. And so I don't know. I literally don't know. But we can, if we're gonna be in that position, I'm sorry, we should be able to do something to help people that are sick and people that are dying have some better options. We really do. Um, and this basically is kind of tied up in the abortion thing. We don't have it because there's a bunch of fucking religious nuts. They've got the Jewish space zombie, and because of that bullshit, they don't want to fucking do anything. Oh, we can't have that. Jesus, think about Jesus. Hey, fuck you. You fucking people out there are. You can look at organized religion, the Catholic and Christian Church. They are responsible for some of the biggest fucking Holocaust in history. Um, there was a thing. I haven't seen it again, but there was a thing where they were talking about how the church, and I don't know if they sent out church groups or if they sent out militia, but they basically sent people out to exterminate a bunch of churches in, I think it was northern Africa, that were all devoted to Mary Magdalene. They had female priests, and I cannot tell you what year it was, but it was basically, they don't do it as much anymore, but for a while there, and like, there were a number of years where, depending on what job I had, I was third shift or second shift, and I would be up in the evening, or I would be up early in the morning when other people were asleep and shit. And usually around Easter and Christmas, the History Channel kind of became the Jesus, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I enjoyed it. Became like the Jesus Channel. And they would have all these documentaries on talking about fucking shit you just never heard about. There was one of them where they were, and this one here, they were, and again, it was around Christmas or Easter, and they were talking about the Da Vinci Code. And they weren't so much talking about the Da Vinci Code, but they were talking about the history behind it. And one of the things they talked, oh God, sorry about that. Don't get old, it sucks. But but they were talking about the history behind it, and like the whole Dan Brown Da Vinci Code. The thing that they pointed out is there, and I wish I could remember the name because I would give the book and the author a shout out. But there's an older book, and it pretty much was the source material. It was not written as a novel that would be turned into a movie to star Tom Hanks. It was basically written as a historical book, a documentary into the history. And I wish I could remember the name. It was an older guy, might have had a British accent that wrote it, but everything that you saw Dan Brown talk about was nothing new. It's not like he discovered it. There was a book that covered it, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I really do, because the whole thing on him was just fucking unbelievable. But but they were going over the whole thing, and one of the things that got me, and I think this guy was just a Catholic priest. He wasn't like a cardinal or a bishop or anything like that. But he basically said that he gave reasons, because Dan Brown made the big thing, oh well, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, and he gave, he said, really, we don't know. He goes, nothing was ever said for sure. And he said that there is, and Dan Brown talked about it, there is evidence to suggest that maybe it was his wife. And they talked about the rumors in southern France that someone who was described much like Mary Magdalene came there with a daughter, a little girl called Sarah. And it's like Hebrew for princess or something like that. And the speculation was that was Jesus and Mary Magdalene's kid. Could very well be. And there's a couple things that this priest said that just kind of got me. One of them was, he's like, well, he goes, there is stuff to suggest they weren't married, because he said there was a big thing, and I can't remember when it was done, but there was a big push that the priests be celibate. And he said, if it was true that Jesus had married Mary Magdalene, because there were a lot of the apostles, there were a lot of them who were there, who didn't like the idea of having to be celibate. They didn't want to, they didn't want to be that way. And he said, you would think that if Jesus had married Mary Magdalene and it was well known, that they would have been arguing, well, how can you say that we can't take a wife? Jesus married Mary Magdalene, and he was bringing up some good things in that. But one of the things he said that I really took to heart on that, piece of shit. He basically pointed out that in his opinion, if Mary Magdalene had been a man, he thinks Mary Magdalene would have been viewed as an apostle, and she would have been viewed as chief among the apostles. And he pointed out that she was there, according to the book, according to the stories, she was there to witness his death. She caught his blood. Apparently, she was the first one that he came to see when he was resurrected. And again, I really don't know if any of these stories are true. I find it hard to believe. I think after he died, because you can go back and look, there, oh God, I can't, it's somebody Jesus was like kind of an apprentice to or followed around. I can't think of the guy's name. Uh, Might be John the Baptist. I don't know, but it was somebody in there that he hooked up with, and he was clearly subservient to that guy. And at a certain point, he decided to go and minister to another country or something. And he left. He left Jesus there. And I think it's in Misquoting Jesus. Ehrman talks about that if Jesus really was the Son of God, if he really was the Messiah, then why didn't Jesus go? Why did Jesus take orders from this guy? Why did this guy appear to be the leader? Why did this guy baptize Jesus and not the other way around? And, and he brought up some real good points on that. And I think what it was, because that guy in question, and I can't remember the guy's name. I really wish I could. Go and read Misquoting Jesus. They talk about it. Read the whole book. It's worth it. But and you'll get filled in on it. But that guy was clearly the leader, and then he died. And so after everybody was dead, because Jesus was a Jew until he died. He did not become a Christian until after he died, and they wrote the stories or whatever. And he. When this guy died, well, then they couldn't have him as the leader anymore because he wasn't fit to be the Messiah, and or they would have done it. So then when Jesus died, well, then they're like, oh, well, we got to make him the Messiah. It was a thing where, okay, now we got to change the story to fit the reality, and that's what it appears to be, and at least to me. You can have your own opinion on that, but so but I'm getting sidetracked here. But so that's what we got to do. We got to get legalized suicide, assisted suicide legalized. Then the other thing is write your Congress. This one's more important, please. If you're only going to do one of them, do this one, and not the other one. But we need to get these hearings on UFOs and UAPs. And the thing I reached out to him today on Threads was, have we not learned anything from Trump? Please. It is clear, and I'm beating a dead horse. I get it. But I reached out to Senator Gillibrand and some of the other, members of Congress that seem to have some authority, seem to be listened to, seem to have some courage, who seem to have really cared about this stuff. And I'm like, look, I go, you had these people come forward, and they told what they told. I go, the one guy, he was interviewed by an inspector general who had the security clearance to verify everything this guy told him. And he didn't say, oh, this guy's nuts. He had PTSD. You shouldn't listen to him. No, he told you guys that the guy was credible, and you should listen to him. You should listen to your inspector generals. And I go, he told you to get into the middle of this. And I go, it has been mentioned by your own Congress people. that the people in the intelligence community and the people in the military are obstructing your investigation. I go, Burchett said there was something that you guys were going to pass, or somebody was going to pass, to make disclosure a little more likely to happen. And he said the leadership, your guys' leadership somewhere, either the Democrats or the Republicans, they came back and said that the intelligence community had said you can't have it. And that's one of the things he said. He said you can't have it. He said it didn't come from the intelligence committee. It came from the intelligence community. You guys are elected. They're not. And I go, it's also been pointed out that every time the military has been audited, every single time they have failed. And I go, I think Burchett said that it was like by $1 billion or more every time. I go, I can now give you 1 billion reasons to suggest that you guys should damn well know that if you investigate this, you're going to at least find some corruption. I go, this is, because I said, when you've got people, and I go, you had one of these military guys who was backed up by the Inspector General. He came forward and said that you have money that is being reallocated. It is not being spent on what it was appropriated for. It's effectively being stolen. It's being embezzled, taxpayer dollars. And I go, that is an Iran-Contra level event. That's an Iran-Contra level of crime. You should be getting to the bottom of that. You should absolutely care enough to get to the bottom of that. And I go, and when you're talking about this audit, with Iran-Contra, we at least knew where the money went. They were, I think, selling drugs and buying weapons or something. I think it was a little triangle trade type thing again. You can look that up in history for those of you who care about that thing. But, this is a real thing. It's absolutely a real thing. And, we at least knew what those were, but I go, this money that's being misappropriated and the money, and that's being misappropriated. We at least know it's going for something. But I go, when they do these audits, I go, you're missing like $1 billion. This isn't like a thing where, we got $1 billion budget, and a couple hundred or a couple thousand went away. We're talking $1 billion. That's a lot. Even if it was millions, it's like, I'm sorry. I am not going to do it, but I'd really like to see what, like, if I was still able to work, and if I was $1 billion off on my taxes, I am pretty sure that the IRS would not give me a fucking pass. I'm sorry. I am pretty sure the IRS is going to be looking to charge me, or they're going to have their hand out going, give us our money, and this is what we're talking about. If you or I did this, Congress does it all the time. We're looking at the fucking corruption in the Supreme Court. But if you or I owed the government $1 billion, they wouldn't take any fucking excuses. They wouldn't sit there and go, oh, well, hey, just try and do better now, which is what the Congress is doing. Maybe that's what I'll talk about tomorrow when I reach out to them later this week. But they, this is something that they wouldn't tolerate. The IRS would not sit there and go to us. It's like, oh, you're $1 billion off. I mean, they nitpick over the fucking dimes. And that's the way Congress should be. This is our tax dollars. They should have to account. And I go, they can't even tell us where this shit went. I go, we're being told that money that was appropriate. Well, I go, it's at least in the budget. They know it's being spent on something. But I go, when they do these audits and there's $1 billion missing, I go, think about what you could do with $1 billion. You could put a fucking dent in the deficit. I go, you could sit there and pay for school lunches. You could pay for health care. There's a lot of things you could do with $1 billion. And I told him, I go, you go look at those Truman hearings on waste and fraud that he did during World War II. I go, they were valuable. I go, stuff like this got caught back then when we had people like Truman. I go, we don't have anybody like Truman now because you guys are all fucking laying down on the job. I go, you came out charging. You were very, very good at it. And now it sounds like you guys are laying back a little bit. And I go, you've got, that guy in Ohio or whatever it is. He's saying, oh, the fucking Department of Defense will be embarrassed if we do this. Good, let them be embarrassed. I'm sorry. If they're constantly $1 billion off, if they're constantly, and I go, I can almost guarantee you're either going to find corruption. I go, regardless of whether you find ET or whether you find some kind of corrupt misinformation campaign to make us think there's ET, whatever you find at the end of this rainbow, I go, you're going to find the theft of $1 billion in tax dollars. You're going to find a theft of that money that's been misappropriated. I go, these should all be crimes. People should go to jail for this shit. And I go, or you're at least going to find some gross incompetence, which again, people should go to jail for. I'm sorry. This is just nuts. It's just nuts that we even got to remind you. You guys should be charging on this. They absolutely should. And so yeah, just basically ask them to reach out, because that was the thing that that journalist Ross Coulthart was saying, that if it does not get done this year, it'll be years before it happens again. Why they wouldn't just do it next year? But it sounds like this needs to happen. But oh my God, that just blew me away. It's like when you heard Congressman go, oh man, the Department of Defense is going to be embarrassed. Good, they should be fucking embarrassed. They absolutely should be fucking embarrassed. Like when they had 6 nuclear missiles come up missing when Bush was president, and I don't think they came up missing. I think somebody was trying to make those disappear, and I think there was going to be some suitcase bombs that were getting made. I really don't know, but I think there'd have been some suitcase bombs made. Oh, I gotta go get some charcoal. And Secretary Gates did not sit around and go, oh my God, we can't look into this. There'll be people in the Department of Defense that'll be embarrassed if we look into how they fucked up and misplaced 6 nuclear fucking weapons. He didn't do that. You know what he did? He ordered a bunch of generals to find out what was going on. And when those generals came back and said, we don't know, he said, good, you're all fired. And then he put some new guys on there. And the message was clear. You better get me some fucking answers. And that's what we need out of Congress a little bit now. And I told him, I go, you guys need to investigate this. You need to investigate it seriously. Because I go, we really don't know. I go, I wish I could tell you. I go, I really wish I could tell them exactly what they're going to find. Because then but if I could, then we wouldn't need to investigate it. But I go, you're probably going to find criminal acts that are going to need to be punished in both the intelligence community, the military, and quite possibly the military-industrial complex. And I go, have we not learned anything from Donald Trump? If you don't punish them, it will keep happening. You guys, they can't do this this shit that I can't think of that one senator from Maine or whatever the fuck she is, Susan Collins. You can't sit there. Oh, I think they learned their lesson, and no. You need to put some fucking people in jail. That's the end of the discussion. And if you got some low-hanging people that want to turn on their superiors, you could maybe give them immunity. They plead guilty to some lesser charges, and then you basically put the screws to the people at the top. And I don't care if they're in the White House or not. You gotta put it. Otherwise, it'll be just like Donald Trump. They won't learn, and they'll keep doing it. Because I said, aren't you guys learning? They're tampering with your witnesses. They're smearing your witnesses. They're attacking your witnesses. They're intimidating your witnesses. These are Trump tactics. This is the same shit that we see out of Trump. And we finally got their head out of their ass to the point where they understand, okay, we got to punish Trump. Well, they need to start doing it to the other bad actors in Washington. Because I told them, I go, just think about this. You know, wouldn't it be nice to have an extra $1 billion a year that you could spend on school lunches or something? I mean, seriously, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to have $1 billion a year that you can pay off the fucking debt? And this is another thing. You know, maybe we'll have 3 call to actions today. You should write them and let them know that they got to start ignoring this crazy shit from the Republicans, these failed economic policies. And what we honestly need is we need to go back to the Clinton era where we pay off debt. This shit where we are constantly paying and paying and paying and paying. We need to pay off the debt, not the debt and the deficit. We need that figured out. We need to pay it off completely, and we gotta get the dumb people in this country. Hey, when we get there, don't fucking vote for a fucking moron again. We need to get this down to where Clinton had it. And then the next time, I don't care if it's Hillary. I don't care if it's fucking Hillary's daughter. I don't care if it's Al Gore's illegitimate nephew or something like that, twice removed with a fucking limp. When we get it down to where Clinton had it, and Biden's actually doing a pretty good job on that. He's paying it down. But when we do get it down to that, and we get a, I don't care if we get some boring ass fucking Democrat and he gets in there and starts talking about lock boxes and all the other, fucking elect him. Get that shit paid off. Get us to where we have no debt. We don't have anybody fucking benefiting from this bullshit. And we can maybe start investing. Or we can start running a pay-as-you-go thing. We'll have an immediate boost, because we won't have all this debt we got to pay off every fucking year. And so that'll be like a tax. That'll be like a fucking budget cut right there. Because basically we can start having like 95 or 100% of our bullshit go to pay for problems instead of I honestly have no idea. But let's just say that 20% of our gross national product is paying for debt. It's paying the interest. We're in a fucking mob movie. We got these Republicans in office. When they get into power, they're like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do this. And then when they get in there, they spend money like fucking drunken sailors in fucking Singapore, and then when they're out of office, they're sitting there. The Republicans are walking around, give me the money, work that vig. They're fucking like a crime family. Trump has made it pretty obvious, but we need to stop this shit. That is money that we could, instead of spending 20%, I don't know, I honestly don't realize, I'm just estimating. But let's just say that 20% of our GDP goes to pay the interest on all the debt that we have. Wouldn't it be nice to spend that 20% on healthcare, or school lunches, or computers for school, or bridges, or roads? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it absolutely be nice? And if you got these people that are, give me my money back, no, you can't have your money back. This is how we pay for fucking society. If you want to live in a fucking jungle with a whole bunch of stupid and fucking moronic people, go to Somalia, go to Russia. They'll fucking welcome your dumb ass, give you a fucking bottle of vodka, and you can be as fucking stupid as you want over there. But if you're going to remain in America, there's a cost for this. You have to grow the fuck up. You got to get your head out of your fucking ass. I'm sorry. I'm going to get off the politics. This is just burning me up, though. But I'm not kidding you. We need to get them to invest. And again, I don't know if we're going to find UFOs. I really don't. I have no clue if we're going to find UFOs. We could find a disinformation campaign. We could find out that people in power, people that are in these appointed positions, and it's been built up since Eisenhower was leaving office, they may have been fucking pulling shit to make us think UFOs were real. You know, they could have had someone like Steven Spielberg. I'm not blaming him, but they could have some special effects nightmare making this shit up, and just so they can graft this money. Because there's a shitload of money missing. There's just no way to get around that. And we need to fucking get to the bottom of that. We need our elected officials to actually do their job and get to the bottom of this. We really do. I don't know. Okay, now the other thing I want to talk about. Now this is what was in the tag thing. The Denisovans. I guess they're around. This is like another. This is like another subspecies of humanity, kind of like they're kind of like Neanderthal, and my understanding is they are more like Neanderthals than they're like us. But it's another species that exists, and I guess they found them. I recently heard about them. I don't remember them. But there's a lot of these little subspecies of human beings, and the assumption's always been, oh well, they just didn't know anything and they were real primitive. They did that. They did that with the Denisovans, I guess, and they did it with the Neanderthals, and we're finding out now that it's just not true. Well, these creatures, these humanoids or whatever you want, I don't really have a good terminology for them. I don't mean anything bad by it. If you don't believe that Neanderthals and Denisovans lived, go to like Walmart around 3 in the morning, and you'll see. You'll see some of their DNA in the people that are frequenting there at like 3 in the morning. You also see some really hot strippers in there too. Normally, you might not see them every night, but if you go and hang out a little bit, and but the thing that they were talking about, I saw Graham Norton on JRE, and I gotta say, Joe Rogan is not perfect. There's a lot of things he could do better, but I do appreciate when he does a video, whatever's in the title is going to show up somewhere in the video. There was one, the title of the video, I started watching it, and it was like 10 or 15 minutes long. But I started watching it, and they made some comment about they existed, so many years ago or something like that, or something happened, some secret writing in the pyramids, and it was supposedly near the burial site of Osiris, and it was, and I'm not gonna tell you who they are. I don't want to give them any publicity, but it was near the temple, near the burial site of Osiris. They found these secret writings, and they've been around for 40,000 years or something like that. Nothing like that was in there. It was a complete fucking lie. I mean, again, I'm not even saying, oh, they said it and it's not true, but the stuff that was in the title was never brought up. It was absolutely never brought up. That's not right. I'm sorry. That's just not right. And but like with Joe, if he has a thing and he says something in the title, they are going to talk about it. And I'm trying to do the same thing, so I'm getting into this. Sorry about the long rant, but this kind of shit pisses me off and has an effect. I apologize. That's on me. That's a character flaw. Some of that is the way I was before I got sick, and just being sick does not help it out at all. But these Denisovans, and I don't completely understand this. And like I said, I did a little searching, and there aren't any good videos on it. I'm worried that if I go and actually read anything, I'm not going to remember it when I come on here. The videos I can watch right before I come on and try to remember them. But one of the things about these Denisovans or whatever, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, uh, they recently, apparently, they were discovered in the 70s. But according to Graham Hancock, the last 10 or 20 years is when they've really done the bulk of the work on this race. And what they found was uh, they found like artifacts, and maybe I'm not going to put one here. I don't want to cover up that chest. What they found was there's this bracelet, and they studied it and they realized, okay, well, there was a pendant or something here. So these were not primitive people. And then when they started studying the bracelet, the experts that looked at it, they honestly felt that it was drilled with a stationary drill that was at extremely high speeds. So like one of our drills, something like what we would have now. Wasn't drilled by hand. It was drilled by it was drilled by a high-speed stationary drill. Is what they. But then there's ways they can tell. I'm not an expert, but that's what the experts said according to Graham Hancock, and he seems like a pretty reliable guy. And I think somebody also said that it may have been a high-tech drill. The source I heard that from, I don't know if I believe him as much, but clearly there's something there. And then another thing was they made these needles, and they were long needles, very strong, something you could use to stitch like heavy fabric together. And he's wondering if they made like skin boats, which would explain how they got to like Australia, because they were clearly, I believe, in Russia. And most of their DNA now is found in Australia, New Zealand, New Guinea, those areas, is what he said. And so there's speculation, there's some thought that maybe they made skin boats, and that would be why the boats are no longer around. But it would also explain how they made it to Australia, because if they didn't have a way of themselves to get to Australia, they probably didn't swim. And so if they didn't make a way, well, then maybe somebody picked them up and moved them there. Either way, there something's got to give on this. And he said the thing is, like, these needles and the bracelet, that if this was something that this would be something that if you found it in, I think he said the Neolithic period, it would be a little believable. Maybe even then a little early, but it would be at least a little believable. But he said to find it in the Paleolithic, I think is what he called it, the Paleolithic period. He goes, it's unbelievable. And he said that there was some evidence that bracelet, there was some evidence that suggested it had been around for 40 or 50,000 years. And he goes, this just blows out. If this is true, this just blows away a lot of the theories that are out there for what's going on. And I don't know, but them are the two UFO stories, and I do apologize, but that really pisses me off when, and who again, maybe they're going quiet and they're still going to do something, I don't know, but they had a good head of steam. I saw the one House hearing. I saw parts of the Senate hearing. Senate hearing was good. The House hearing was good. Some of the stuff coming out of Senator Gillibrand, some of the stuff coming out of Senator Gillibrand's statements, and after Ross did a debunking on it, the stuff coming out by Senator Schumer, It sounds like they were taking it serious. Adam Schiff, that very first House hearing that they had, Adam Schiff, it was not his committee. He came in. He was allowed to come in because he was in charge of the main committee. This was one of the subcommittees, and he came in and was allowed to ask some questions. And you could see it. He seemed bothered. He seemed really bothered. Mark Rubio, who's the co-chair on Senator Gillibrand, so he would have been in charge of it when the Republicans were in charge. Now she's in charge of it because the Democrats are in charge. He was doing an interview, and he was like just shocked. And he's like, "Well, look, one way or another, we got something we got to get to the bottom of. It's like you could tell he didn't really believe that it was ET, but whether it's ET or fucking another country, something is flying around our military people, and we need to get to. He doesn't. He's not to the point where I think he's believing, and I think he's to the point where he doesn't care. Something needs to be done. They got to get to the bottom of this shit, and and I'm fine with that because I don't know what any of this is. I am completely convinced that if you got somebody who is going to look at this shit and be honest, they could come back and tell us that yes, it's Lockheed Martin and all these other, they're fucking doing this shit. They're making it look like aliens are here so they can fucking loot the taxpayers for money. That's why they're doing it. I could totally believe that. If the same people also came out and said, yeah, what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch is real, we don't have a fucking clue what's going on, we're doing our best, I could believe that too. I could absolutely, and again, I think you got to leave your open mind to anything and just wait for the facts to fit it. But there was a girl, she was like a tech giant in Utah, and she reached out and told everybody, it's true, we're living in the Matrix. She threw something out there like on social media. They found her dead in her fucking car like a week or two later. She went missing, and a couple weeks later, they found her dead in her rental car in California, where she was like giving a lecture, going to give a lecture. And it's like, okay, what the fuck? I mean, seriously, what the fuck? But any of that, anything that fits the facts, I could believe. I could honestly believe, but it's got to fit the facts. But those are three possibilities. We need to get to the bottom of this. And I'm sorry, if you've got anybody in office, in the military, in any type of a government job who's breaking the law, who's fucking things up, then we can't Merrick Garland this shit. We can't Bill Barr this shit. People need to go to jail over this. It's just that simple. I'm getting lightheaded. I shouldn't have let myself get worked up, but I'm getting lightheaded. Peace out, and I hope everybody has a good day. I really do.